Welcome everyone. This is the last practice of probability. This is a video about the cheat sheet for GMM probability problems. Again, it is going to be two events. You're looking for two things happening, and we are multiplying the two fractions. You guys are getting good at multiplying fractions by now. And we are going to look closely at the wording and decide if we're replacing or we're not replacing the items that we're choosing. And that's going to make a difference in our totals. I'm going to ask you to always try to fill in your totals first. And that's how I'll go over these problems. There are 9 quick ones. And here we go. Number 1, you randomly draw twice from this deck of cards. So here we have, what is the probability of drawing a 4 and then drawing an odd number, replacing the first card? All right, so I'm going to ask you to read through the whole problem so you can decide what your denominators or your totals are. So we're replacing the first card, and so I have 5 cards there, and so my totals then I know are both going to be 5. Easy. All right, and then I go back and I reread and decide what I'm looking for in each pick. All right, and so what's the probability of drawing a 4? And I see that there's only one 4, and so that's my first fraction. And then drawing an odd number. And so then from the 5 that I have, I'm looking for odds, and I can look at my cheat sheet up here. The odds are over here. All right. And I have 3, 5, and 5. Notice I write them down and mark them up. And so I have 3 of them. And you are either going to use parentheses in your calculator like you've been doing, or alpha y equals. So when you multiply these two fractions, you will get 3 out of 25. So that's a replacing. Our denominators were the same. So let's do another. All right. And take a look at this one. You will have a multiple choice. Do not just guess. Please, please, please. Just write the fractions down and do it. So here we go. We have Ivy as a piggy bank with 7 quarters, 7 pennies, and 1 nickel. All right. She randomly chooses 2 coins from the piggy bank without replacing. And so when I add these up, 7 plus 7 plus 1, I get a total of 15. But she does not replace. Without replacing, she's holding on to that coin. And so my other denominator is 14. Decide your denominators or your totals first. All right. And then I'm going to read on what is the probability that Ivy will choose a nickel first. So I look back at the problem. There's only one nickel. And so that's my first fraction. And she chooses it, so it's gone. And that's kind of a good visual that I have 14 left, which I have here. And then what is the probability of a penny? And there are 7 pennies. And so now I have my 2 fractions. Take your time and you will multiply these two. And you can practice along with me if you want, or just know that you can do this. And so if I multiply 1/15 times 7/14, I get 1/30. And then that is my answer up here. Then I can pick that. All right, number 3. All right, you're going to have some of these where you have 2 completely different events. All right, so it's kind of replacing, but not really. You have 2 different totals. And so you randomly draw 1 marble from this collection. Now keep reading. And after that, you randomly draw at once from this deck. All right, so if I count up my marbles, I have 11. And if I count up the deck, I have 6. All right, so I need 2 completely different totals because they're asking me to pick from 2 completely different things. All right, and then I read on. It says, what's the probability of drawing a purple marble? And so I count up the purple marbles and I have 4. All right, and then drawing a number more than 1. And I like to write them down, especially if they're more specific descriptions, like they're looking for a prime or something. But anything more than 1 is everything except that number 1. And so I'm multiplying by 5. When I use parentheses and multiply those, or alpha y equals and just multiply these, I get the number 10/33. Alrighty, thanks for sticking with me. Number 4 is one that has another description of totals. All right, and let me just move this in place. A bag has 6 orange, 7 red, and 7 blue, and 5 yellow. Now be careful because sometimes the numbers are kind of stuck in different places. I tend to write these down or just type them in my calculator to get the total. All right, and so I have a total of 25, and it says put it back. And so I know my total is again 25 on the second pick. All right, so it's important to look at what their description is. And now I need to know what I'm looking for. What is the probability of not getting a blue? All right, so if there are 7 blues, my brain is going to say take 25, take away that 7 blues, it's the opposite. And so my first fraction is 18/25ths. And then getting a blue. And I put it back so it's out of the 25. And how many blues are in there? It is 7. And when I multiply these using parentheses or alpha y equals, I get a huge total. I triple checked this. It may come out this outrageous 126 over 625 is my answer. And I'll be putting them in fraction form in GMM, and I'm trying to reduce them when I can. So I'm math fracking everything. All right. Number 5. All right, we're halfway here. You pull a lollipop from a bag of lollipops. You have 5 blue, 3 speckled, 4 black, and 4 yellow. After that, you roll a number cube. So here's another thing. You have 2 different events. You have 2 totally different totals. And so you have 16, because when I added these up and I write it down and put it in my calculator, adding up all those lollipops, I get 16, and I roll the number cube or dice, whatever way you want to say it. My totals are 16 and 6. And then I look at what I'm looking for. What's the probability of drawing a speckled lollipop? And I have 3 speckled, and so that's what I'm going to put in my numerator. And then rolling a 2, we're reading all the way over here, rolling a 2. Your brain might want to put the number 2 in there, but there's only one 2 on the 6 numbers on the dice. And so it's 1 out of 6. So be careful of that. And when I multiply these, I get 1 out of 32 because it math fracked it, it reduced it for me. You can test that. Somebody test that for me. All right. And then number 6. These are exactly what the cheat sheet looks like. And so let's take a quick look at this one. You roll a die twice. And here it is. It's sort of like replacing because you're starting again when you roll the dice a second time. So your totals are the same on that. It doesn't say to replace it, but I know that I have 6 possibilities on each die. And so what is the probability of rolling a number less than 6? And this is sometimes when I write them, scribble them out on scrap paper and use these for all of the ones that have dice questions. But less than 6, there's 5 of them. And then rolling a number less than 4. And sometimes I cover them up with my thumb. Less than 4. It's not equaling the 4. So I have 3 there. And when I multiply these, that reduces down to 5 over 12. 5 over 12. All fraction answers in GMM, people. All fraction answers. And the last 3 here. A bag has 7 red pens, 4 speckled, 7 yellow, and 3 black. You randomly pull a pen from the bag and you keep it out. There's my information. I want to read all the way to the point of knowing. And so if I add all the pens up on my calculator, type those in, I have a total of 21 pens. But I keep it out, and so my second total that I'm choosing from is 20. It kind of makes sense. I'm going to take a pen out. I'm going to keep it for myself and use it. And so be careful now, reading carefully what's the probability of getting a red. And so I look back at my reds, and it's the first number, and so I should have a 7 out of 21. Now be careful, because your brain's going to go right here to black, but it's not getting a black, so read carefully. Now there are 3 black pens, and so a lot of times I think, oh, that's 3 out of 20, and then I think, what's the opposite? Because I don't want the black pens, so I should have 17 out of 20. And when I multiply these, and it reduces it for me, I get 17 over 60. 17 over 60. And that's a not replacing, so my denominator is different. And I'm trying to give you a nice variety of all the different kinds. So please use this, have this tab open, and here we go. You randomly draw twice from this deck of cards. All right, and so it says, what's the probability of drawing a G and then not drawing a D without replacing? So I read all the way to the point of knowing my total is 6, cards, and then because I'm not replacing it, my total on my second fraction is 5. All right, so let's go back and see how many G's there are. There are 1, 2, 3 G's, so 3 out of 6. And because I'm not replacing it, I kind of cover a G up. I pretend I don't cover all 3. Be careful. I assume I got one of those G's on the first pick because I only am picking once, but I had 3 chances. So cover up one that you got. And now you have 5 things left to choose and not D. Well, in this case, not D, I have 3 D's, but not D are this G and this G. So it was important to not to kind of cover up that G. And so I have 2 left, all right? And when I multiply these two, I get a reduced fraction of probability 1/5. Okay, so be careful with those. And then the last problem, thank you for sticking along and really listening. You randomly draw twice from this deck of cards. So I see my deck of cards. What is the probability of drawing a 1 and then drawing an even, replacing the first card? So now I can make my fractions 5 and 5 because there are 5 total. All right, and now I have 2 different things I'm looking for. Drawing a 1. All right, there are 2 possibilities for drawing a 1, so I write the number 2, and I'm assuming I got one of those, but I put it back because it says replacing. And then the probability of an even, I can go all the way back up and just refresh my memory that evens are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And so my evens in this case are just the 2 4s. I'm not writing the number 4, even though that's the even number I have. I'm writing that I have 2 of them. And when I multiply those, either using parentheses or alpha y equals, and you guys are good at this, it will reduce it for me, and I have the fraction probability of 4/25. All right, so please use this as a guide. Thank you for all your work that you've been doing, taking your time. Email a snapshot or just email for help. We can kind of look at your problems sometimes or talk you through them or Zoom with you in class time Zoom or even private Zooms. We want you to get these right. Thanks so much, and this will end your week after you do this GMM work. Thanks.